Good morning, everybody, and welcome to Real Talk Live. I'm Ben Ferguson, along with John Cottadella,
Good
and we
morning.
want to say hello to everybody. It's kind of an early show today. We're here. It's a little after 8:30 a.m.
Yeah.
So
On
I
the
know
first cold day of the year.
first cold day of the year. The holidays are kicking in, man. It's October. We haven't had Halloween yet. We're right on the verge of that.
It feels like it.
Yeah, favorite part of the year.
Last year, the holidays kind of got wiped away, so I
Yeah,
think they're going
last
to be
year,
big ones
holidays
this year.
Straight sucked. I mean, nobody could do anything. We couldn't go out. We couldn't do anything. Yeah, this year we have a show.
Yeah.
We have a lot of people, a lot of your people from Los Angeles watching, and anybody out there doing that. Thank you very much. We
As
appreciate
far as
it.
Sicily, believe it or not, I got cousins in Italy watching this stuff.
Sicily.
Yeah.
Good evening, Sicily. You know, we have some people from the YouTube or from the Pine Valley subscription from Germany and France too.
Yeah.
So, man, that's neat. Even
So
if it's
fun.
4 or 5 people, it's just around the world.
It's
right
great. I
now.
mean, one thing could just be worldwide, just like that now.
Yeah, yeah.
It really is cool.
So I kind of want to get in the holidays. I want to do a PSA. I remember this is a college town, Santa Barbara, a lot of college kids. When I was in college, my brother and I didn't have a lot of money. And one day he came, this is just a holiday tip. I'm not saying it's good or bad, it's just what we did. He came to me one time, he said, Ben, we have enough money for food or beer? And I'm like, I thought for a minute,
choice. Yeah,
using the little brain I have, I said, all right, you go get the beer. I'll take care of the food. So he went to get the beer, and I grabbed just a brown paper sack and drove about a mile and just walked around the neighborhood, knocking on doors. Now, you got to be careful what you say. Just knock on the door and say, hi, we're collecting food for the hungry. And they're like, oh, we just love what you're doing. I'll be right back. It's a win-win. I feel good. They feel good. Within 10 minutes, I had a full bag of food.
And you were hungry, I guess.
We
so-
were starving, especially after you drink the beer.
Yeah, a couple beers gets you hungry.
Yeah, we did that. I don't know how many times, but yeah, no, that it works for the holidays. It's just something that we do here. We just add a little something to each show.
Yeah.
Today, let's call today's show "Ben Goes to Jail,"
Yeah.
because we had mentioned early on probably 30 years ago or so that I had some trouble with the law. I had some trouble with some DUIs, 2 DUIs and 2 driving unsuspended within a month, and I opted to get a public defender. So all that's just, looking back on it, that was the silliest thing ever. So I realized that when I called the public defender and told him, just a real recap from last show, that I had another DUI. He said, okay, just don't get any more. And I'm like, yeah, I don't plan to. He did not stand for me. So by the time I ended up going to court, the judge he thought I was just a complete you-know-what, and he
Sure.
threw the book at me. He gave me a year. Fast forward, I met Steve Bailash. I'm sure he's a criminal lawyer in town, one of the best. And now I know why you throw money at attorneys.
Yep.
So I called him. I gave him a lot of money, and what he did was amazing. I mean, he did all his stuff behind the scenes. He went to my job. He told my boss to get 7 character references, and I remember going to court the next time, and that same judge that wanted to see me go to jail,
Sure.
he read the letters, and it was a whole different tone.
Yep.
And they ended up giving me 3.5 months of work furlough, which was a dream.
Yeah,
compared
that's
to
a score. Yeah. Now, for people who don't know what work furlough is, give them a little.
work
Because
furlough.
not everybody out there has been in jail.
For those of you who haven't gone to jail yet, thank you, John. Work furlough is so much better than going to jail. Work furlough, you go up to, okay, let me explain Turnpike Jail, right? Turnpike, everybody knows where the jail is in the dump. It's right off a turnpike. You get off Turnpike, you go all the way up that hill, and there's a facility up there. There's a jail, and then there's another facility that looks like a starfish, right? It has the cage with the guards in it, and then it has all these legs of inmates that are on the farm. And one of the legs is work furlough. So you spend the night there, you get up in the morning, you get dressed, and you have a ride, and you go to work. And then after work, you come back and spend the night in jail. Except for the weekends, you had to stay there. Except for Saturday, I could work, but Sunday, you had to stay there. So you had to be back at 5 o'clock. So anyway, I get in there, and I'm looking around, and two of the inmates from the farm are elected, so to speak, to take care of the work furlough crowd, just to keep everybody in check.
Yeah.
So I knew from seeing all the movies I needed to take care of them first.
Yeah.
So I'm looking. I see the TVs over here and the guards here, and I don't sleep well. I mean, if I hear something or someone moves my bed, I'm up all night. And then knows telling what I'm going to do if I don't get sleep. So I figured I needed to be halfway from the TV and halfway from the guards.
Good spot.
Outside one of the windows was a volleyball court with sand. So we called that the beach. So I said, I need a middle bunk on the beach. and I don't want anybody else in my bunk. What's it going to cost me? And they're like, oh, Ferguson, that's going to be expensive. How much would you pay? And I would have paid anything. I would have paid $100. I would have paid anything.
Yeah.
And I'm like, no, you're running the place. You tell me how much are you going to charge me? He goes, well, let me think. He goes, we're talking like 8 quarters in a pack of cigarettes. And I'm like, good God, you got high
8
prices.
rolls or just 8 quarters?
8 quarters. So not only did
All right.
I think I gave him 12 quarters and a couple packs of cigarettes, but I got my own bunk.
On the beach.
On the beach. Halfway. Oh, I got it. Just before that, I did have a roommate. That's why I ended up getting my own roommate. But anyway, I paid them off. And I would walk by them when they're watching TV, and I would just tap them on the shoulder, and I'd give them a handful of quarters every couple of days. And I was like King Rat at that place. I mean, it was kind of cool. It was really like camp. I mean, it wasn't really like jail. The funny thing was, a work fellow had a little area you could go out and smoke cigarettes. There's a picnic table, but they had all this razor wire. And I'm like, wait, no, we have all this razor wire. We have all day to run. You know, we're at work, right? We can escape. But at nighttime, well, we can't climb the fence. Anyway, that was kind of
So
funny.
is it actually locked, you think?
I don't know.
I mean, I don't think any of you guys are going to find out.
I knew one guy that got himself into some trouble, and he told me he wasn't going to come back from work the next day, and he didn't. So I've always wondered what happened to him. But let me tell you what happened one time. So I smoked cigarettes. Everybody smoked cigarettes back then. We have a little locker next to our bunk. And before I got my own bunk, I had a bunkmate, and his name was Jewel. And his father owned all the High Time liquors here in town. And I remember I told him, somebody's stealing my cigarettes. And I don't care if you take one or take my money or whatever, because he's a good guy. But don't touch the cigarette in this pack. This is a decoy pack. And what I did is I took the cigarette out and I sprayed Lysol on it about 3 or 4 times until it really soaked in there. And I figured it was like a mousetrap. You know,
Right.
I'm gonna come up home one day and I'm gonna see a fire truck and an ambulance. We're gonna peek in and we're gonna find out who took the cigarettes. And I'm dead serious. I did that. And he goes, Ferguson, you can't. He goes, what are you, Charlie Manson? And he goes, you can't do that. You'll kill somebody. And I'm like, so anyway, that was my nickname, Charlie Manson, for a while. So big, you know, it's work furlough and it's camp, but it's still kind of cool being in jail having a Charlie Manson nickname. At least
This sounds like summer camp, kind of. It's
summer camp with a twist.
Yeah.
You know, the guards were really cool except for one. I can name names, I think. There was the Medinas. Now, the Medina ran work furlough, and he was one of the coolest guys I ever met. I really got along with these guys. And the funny thing was, there was an officer named Officer Grunwald who worked for Medina, but I sold cars at that time. So he would come in to Toyota, and we would joke around, and I said, hey, drive whatever you want. So he loved new cars. So we drove new cars. This one time, we were driving new cars all afternoon. And you have to be there. You have to be back at 5 o'clock, not 5:02, but 5 o'clock. So the lady from the office who drove me back, she goes, Ben, we got to go. And Officer Grunwald said, hey, I'll just take you back. I'm going back. And I'm like, wow, you know, officer's taking me
get
back.
the
That's
VIP
kinda cool.
treatment, yeah.
Except, he goes, I want to drive one more Supra or something. So we quickly drove another car. It's like 4 minutes to 5. So we jam over to Turnpike. But as soon as we go to the bottom of the hill, and this is a 300-yard hill, as soon as we get to the bottom of the hill, he goes, you got to get out here. I'm like, dude, I'm going to be late. He goes, nobody can see me with you, Ferguson. You have to get out here. But I'm going to be late. So anyway, I get out and I just run up and I'm it's like 5:07. I mean, it's a long hill. I come in there panting, just going, and Medina just grills me, rips me. And I'm looking over at Mr. Grunwald going like, and he's just like this. But I ran into him at Costco, you know, a couple years ago. And I brought that up, and he just started laughing.
Oh, I bet. Yeah, I bet years later it's a whole different twist, right? Looking back on it.
Different twist.
Yeah, when you're not going through it, it's...
The interesting thing was these guys were my friends. But when there was another inmate, so to speak, around, or another guard, they used to have to yell at me, and I used to just, yeah, right, you know, listen to him. Okay, sir, yes, sir. You know, kind of do the Playhouse 90 thing.
Yeah.
But, you know, I ran into Mr. Grunwald at Costco. I don't know. Medina had a brother, and he ran the jail. So for work furlough, when you get off work, you go to this trailer, and you take your belt off and put it in a locker and put your money in there, and then you eat, and then you go into the Starfish that I was referring to, the jail, the camp part. But his brother ran that. His brother didn't like me. And, you know, one time I forgot and I left my belt on, and, oh, God, I just got in so much trouble.
Didn't pan out well.
No, but let's get back to paying off the two guys. So I
Yeah.
paid them off. So on Sundays, I mentioned before no, I didn't mention, but when I was a little kid on my birthday, all I wanted to do was go to jail.
Yeah, I want to know
right?
where did it all start? Because I don't think it started with furlough.
When I'm like 8 or 9 years old, my mom says, it's your birthday, you can do whatever you want. You can go to the zoo, you can go to the Seattle Center, which had rides and all kinds of stuff. And I'm like, I woke up and I want to go to talk to the inmates. I don't know if it was a past life or what, but I wanted to talk to the inmates. And she just said, you can't do that. And I can remember the feeling I had, like, of course I could do that. It's my birthday.
All I got to do is get in trouble.
Well, later on, I found out that I was not only able to talk to the inmates, but they even invited me to stay a few nights. So, yeah, that all worked out. But anyway, so when I'm up there, I'm paying the guys quarters. On Sundays, you ate, and then you had to do all the chores. You had to, real work, like scrub these cement floors with these big machines, the stuff you see on TV. But I always paid the guy off, so I never had to. So I would eat a big, huge Sunday breakfast, and then I'd go crawl into my bunk. This is when I had my own bunk. It was 3 bunks, so I slept in the middle, of course.
Yeah.
And I remember everybody clean. I remember one guy walking by going, hey, man, how come Ferguson never has to do anything? And it's all I heard was, hey, man, do your own time, Holmes. and to this
That's
day,
a T-shirt right there.
I'm going to get a T-shirt, do your own time,
Holmes.
That guy, his name was, I think his name was Oscar, but he was one of the coolest dudes. And I hope good things happen to that guy because he was in the regular jail taking care of us. But yeah, it was fun. I didn't have to do anything. I kind of played big shot in kind of a little shot kind of way.
So how long did that go for? Was that?
I was 3.5 months.
Oh, wow.
And here's the thing. So here's what the judge did. He goes, I read your letters. You sound like half a decent guy. I kind of misread you from before. I'm going to take that year, and I'm going to make it 3.5 months. But if you screw up and work furlough, that 3.5 months goes bink to a year, and you go to the... And I'm like, I'm fine.
Yeah.
Interestingly enough, there was a policeman or a guard at the work furlough one time, and I didn't really know him, older man, and he comes up and he goes, everybody knew me for some reason. He goes, Ferguson, how much probation do you have once you get out of here? And I said, well, I'm going to have 5 years. And he goes, oh, boy. And I'm like, why? He goes, well, you're never going to get out of the system. You see all these guys in here? You see all the guys in the farm? They're in the system. They'll be in the system the rest of their lives. I'm like, what do you mean I'm going to be in the system? I'm not going to be in the system. He goes, there's no way a guy like you can't screw up within 5 years. And he's dead serious. Right. That man probably saved me from ever getting into trouble again. Just from hearing that, I'm like, no.
Yeah, and next time probably, you maybe wouldn't have got so lucky. You would have gone in. Or...
Well, his thing was a guy like me is going to go, I don't know, get another drunk driving
right.
or do something bad. In and out for the rest of my life.
Sure.
And by him saying that, I'm like, yeah, no.
Yeah, now you're not paying people off with nickels and quarters.
It's not quarters anymore. Now it's like sleeping on your back with one eye open, that kind of thing. I don't want that. So anyway, after I was Charles Manson, there's a little area. This is where it kind of got fun. There's a little area where we watched TV, and we wore green smocks, and the rest of the guys wore blue jail stuff. So it was kind of funny. It looked like a country club thing. But there was a
kind of a Thurston Howell thing, right?
Yeah, with Gilligan running a little bamboo cart running around for us. But there was a door by the TV and it had an alarm on it. So if you got near it, man, you'd set the alarm off. But if you asked the guard, he would turn the alarm off, and you could go out and smoke cigarettes or sit out in the patio.
This doesn't sound half bad.
Oh, so watch it. So I go to the guards and I say, can you turn the alarm off? And they said, sure. So I came back, and everybody's watching a movie. And I go sit down, and I sit there for a few minutes. And then I said, I'm going outside. And I start walking to the door. Oh, no, Ferguson, don't touch that. You got to go to the guard. You got to ask first. Yeah, I'm sick of these damn rules. And I go up and I kick the damn thing, and it flies open. Everybody's like, holy crap. And that was when it changed to Special Forces. That was my Charles Manson to Special Forces.
Yeah, that's quite the conversion. You had some names there.
Yeah, I'd like a little better. Nobody really knew why they called me Charlie Manson. I just kind of
gave him the stare.
Yeah, stuff like that was fun. One time a guy came running to me and said, hey, one of ours meant somebody in our work furlough. He goes, hey, so-and-so's in big trouble. He's in a blackjack game with the inmates. And he's like $400 or $500 down, and he's screwed. Wow. And you don't want it's kind of a Santa Barbara jail, but it's still jail.
Yeah.
Excuse me. So I ran over there, and I saw him playing, and they knew me, and I had a few bucks for, because I worked. Anyway, so I said, listen, I'm going to bankroll him, and I'm going to sit and watch the game and help him. And they said, okay. But I sat to where I could just see the inmates' cards. I mein, it was bad. I had to be careful because you don't want to get caught cheating in a situation like that.
You're in jail cheating.
Yeah. So anyway, I'm looking. He's going to want to hit again, and then boom, boom, boom. Okay, now you're going to want to put down this much. Boom, and within about 5 minutes, we were down to even, and I got him.
And no one's picking up that you're like telling them what to
No,
do.
they were just like, damn. Yeah,
this guy really is special forces.
Yeah, that was a little bit scary. One thing, we wore our regular clothes out to work. We had a change, and I wore a suit. And I remember working a car deal at 4:30 and telling the lady, I have to go. And she goes, well, where do you have to go? And I said, I have to go back to jail. And I never sold so many cars in my life. People just, I don't know, they loved the idea.
Were you telling them, or is it just because you had to be out of there?
No, I told them. I said, ma'am, I have to go to jail. I have to leave by 4. They're, okay, we'll take it. I mean, that was the easiest close in the world. So if anybody wants to close a deal, just say, I got to go to jail. And it worked.
All you car salesmen out there, tell them.
But anyway, one thing of clothing that we had to wear was T-shirts and boxers. And they all were stamped Santa Barbara County Jail.
Uh-huh.
So I thought, man, I bet my friends would love some of these. So I made friends with the guy in the laundry room. And so every couple of days, you'd bring your towel in. So I said, what's it going to take to get me like 3 pair underwear, 3 T-shirts? And he goes, 6 cigarettes or whatever it was. So I would have them in the towel, the cigarettes, and then he would give me the new towel. And it was like a Clint Eastwood movie. It was kind of, I felt like a big shot. But so I'm sending to my friends up in Seattle. I'm starting to get complaints. A couple of people said, Ben, it's great. We love it. But some of them have like skid marks in them. And I'm like, oh.
Like used
Yeah.
stuff.
And I'm like, all right, let me go talk to the guy. So I go back to the guy. I'm like, I can't be sending skid marks to these people. He goes, all right, bro. I want 10 cigarettes for brand new, fresh pressed. I'm like, deal.
Man.
So now I'm putting packs into the thing. So anyway, I got fresh T-shirts and boxers, and I don't know how many pairs I sent. But that was about 30 years ago, and I know you probably thought better of this, but
oh no,
I kept a pair for me.
Wow.
Now this is so important to me. Now if the police want to come arrest me, that's fine. But I kept these and these, and they're there. That's the authentic deal.
That's the
right
real
there.
deal, man.
I kept a pair for me, and I keep them with my concert shirts. They never get worn, but.
Yeah, it's like Evander Holyfield probably has like his boxing trunks over his, trophy case.
I could frame those and put those in the living room.
Yeah, I guess why not?
Impress all the ladies. So what have you been doing?
It's just getting used to this new weather and kind of new way of life. I'm not a big COVID this, COVID that, but stuff has changed a little bit, and kind of the way we do things and processes.
Did you get your flu shot?
Haven't yet, but. Soon. This week, I think.
Yeah, I got mine the other day at Costco. I used to get the flu really bad growing as a kid. I mean, like 2 weeks, pounding head, and I remember I set a big trip up one year when I was probably 25, 30 years old, and the whole trip was wasted because of that. And I got flu shots every year since then. I haven't had the flu.
Yeah, it's, I hear both, and I don't know. I'm for them. When I was a kid, I was, I don't need it. It's going to get me sick and that whole thing. But, hey, I haven't been sick in a couple of years now, so.
Well, I never knew how they worked, but it makes sense if they just put a little bit of that in there, and then your body sees it, and all the white blood cells or whatever to defend off that thing, and you don't get it anymore.
Yeah.
But it's totally worked for me. So I've had both vaccines and I'm everybody's nightmare. Everybody's running right here saying, don't vaccinate. And I'm like, well, I've kind of done everything.
Yeah, I just heard today, it looks like the White House is working on a plan for ages 5 to 11 or something like that.
Now, you have kids. I don't know. I might have a problem injecting my child. I don't know. I haven't really thought about it.
So, yeah, that's kind of a tough thing nowadays.
Because when the kid gets it, they shrug it off quickly anyway.
Well, it's that, and plus, what does the shot do? I don't know. This is brand new. this thing's only been out for a year or two, so they're still developing.
COVID's pretty much the flu with a twist, I think.
Yeah, and I don't. I'm not a doctor. I don't claim to be this big health guru or anything like that. But to me, it sounds a little off-putting to say, hey, here's someone that's you got to remember everything's developing. Their brains, their organs, they're growing, and we're kind of tweaking with it,
Yeah, I think I'd steer away from vaccinating my child, just because the odds if a kid gets it, it's like a cold to him, and he gets rid of it.
Yeah, I mean,
Soon, at
there's
least from what I've heard.
no, I totally get it. I see both sides. I'm not one of those guys that's, hey, get out there and vaccinate them, or hey, how dare you? It's just, each parent's his own, and you got to do what's best for you.
Yeah.
But I mean, yeah, you take a kid's diet, for instance. You take a kid that eats a lot of sugar versus a kid that doesn't eat sugar. I mean, obviously, there's going to be a difference in the way that kid develops and grows and everything else.
Yeah, what does sugar do? Because I grew up on sugar.
Yeah, so did I. I remember sitting in class, and this is like recently I remember this, where I would just eat like a donut for breakfast, maybe a little bit of coffee. Right?
Grape pop and a donut for breakfast.
And then LAUSD had this coffee cake, man. They'd give you this hunk of coffee cake. Yeah, at school. I mean, it was great. So you'd eat that, maybe pound a Fruitopia. That was a big drink back then or something like that. So you just got all the sugar. Now it's lunchtime. And maybe you had a sandwich or something like that. So I just remember sitting there just like, I couldn't concentrate. People are talking, teachers are talking. I'm just going, Yeah. Everybody seems to be.
Johnny didn't do well in school.
Yeah, Johnny didn't do well.
I grew up on Frankenberry and Cookie Jarvis. Can you imagine eating a cereal called Cookie Jarvis? It's cookies and milk for breakfast.
Yeah, I'd forgotten all about that. The breakfast cereal. I didn't even mention that. We had like Cookie Crisps and Cinnamon Toast Crunch and just anything
Fruity
under the
Pebbles,
stars.
all sugar.
Yeah, you had sugar with a little bit of crisp.
And then they came out with muffins, which really aren't muffins at all. I mean, the word muffin means, hey, I can eat a muffin, right? Because they're good for me.
Well, muffins are cupcakes.
Well, muffins are corn muffins and bran muffins. But then one day somebody took happy birthday cake batter.
Yeah, Mr. Kirkland.
Yeah, and poured it into these huge, I think Vaughn's did, in these huge muffin tins. So now you could have a muffin. You could still call it a muffin, but it was a cake.
Yeah, it was like a Private Select or one of those companies did it. Yeah, I remember that.
And you could eat a couple of those. And, I only had a couple of muffins. No, you had half a cake.
Yeah.
And that's
minus the frosting.
Right.
We got to stay healthy.
But as a kid, I remember, 11 o'clock in the afternoon, you want to go to sleep. I remember wanting to go to the nurse and sleep it off because I remember Friday night was the big night for me as a kid. Friday night Friday night, Channel 4, 8 o'clock, The Brady Bunch. The Partridge Family, Room 222, and The Odd Couple. And I always had a bag of candy bars. Not a couple pieces of candy, but a bag of candy bars.
So, like 2 or 3? What do you mean a bag?
Oh, God, more than that. I had one for each show, minimum. I mean, I was kind of addicted to sugar back then.
Oh, yeah, that was common. I mean, if you had enough money to buy 5 candy bars and you're a kid, you're buying 5 candy bars.
Well, I would shake the neighborhood down. If it was summertime, I'd mow the lawn. I would rake leaves. I would pick blackberry. I would do whatever it took to get the money because it was, honest to God, it was like a drug. I had to have it. If I didn't, I was like that. And then when I did have it, I remember eating, when you eat that much candy, well, that was a Friday night, but let's say you do it during the week, you don't sleep because your brain's like, what the hell, and then you don't get any rest. And the next day I remember these pounding headaches and God.
Yeah, God bless my parents, but I remember if we got hurt or something, if say a family member's over, little kids, you got in an argument or something, oh, here, have a Twinkie. So now it was like, hey, man, I'm going to fall down the stairs. I'm going to get us some Twinkies. All right, cool. You're taking the bump next time. Yeah. And we just back and forth, man. We wanted those Twinkies.
I had 2 older brothers. So when my mom bought Twinkies, it was like throwing a hamburger into Piranha. It was funny one time, a friend of mine when I was a kid said, hey, do you want to come over for dinner? And I'm like, well, sure, of course I do. And the mom said, yeah, you're welcome to come, but we're having leftovers. And I'm like, what are leftovers? I had never heard the phrase leftovers. She goes, what do you mean? You don't know what leftovers are? It's when you don't finish the meal. I have 2 older brothers. There was nothing left over.
Lucky if there's plates.
I'm telling you, my mom would put the food out and just jump back. And a bunch of angry dogs. But there was never anything left over. But yeah, going to other people's houses and experience what they, I did that a lot too. That was almost like a strange addiction. I always wanted to spend the night at other people's houses. Maybe it's because my brothers used to just beat the crap out of me all the time.
Oh, you just wanted to sleep, and just be able to not sleep with one eye open.
I just wanted to live without, and I probably deserved getting beat up because I had a mouth on me. I mean, I would rip them in half, talk about their girlfriends, and just get really bad. And then when they caught me, it was lights out.
Well, at least you learned how to take a beating, I guess.
I did. And that with the getting over the drug thing and going to jail. I mean, I've set the bar to where I can pretty much get through anything. Now, people, I'm having a bad day. I'm like, no, that's not a bad day.
No.
That's nothing.
Yeah.
But that is the good part of having gone through certain things in your life that at the time you think, like when I was at the beginning of the 3.5 months. And then after that, I had to take a 1.5-year class to get my driver's license back. And when you're sitting there going, you're 25 years old, you're like, this is never going to end.
Yeah, I bet.
And it ends, and then you get your license, and then you become a human being again, and a product of society, and you start to work. and you start doing the right things, and then you go Zoom that way. It's just. But I can see where it's easy to get caught up in the muck if you maybe weren't lucky enough to have really good parents or something like that. Because a lot of these guys in that work in the farm, they were just reoccurrences.
It's all the environment, man. It's like pigs. You take a domesticated
Like
pig.
pigs.
No, I don't mean they're literally
Well, I wanna
pigs.
hear
I mean,
this.
if you take a farm animal, a pig, a domestic pig, friendly, babe, pet it,
Right.
kids love it, leave it out in the wild for a couple weeks. It ain't babe
It's not
anymore.
going to survive.
Yeah. Well, no, it turns into a wild boar again, a
I
wild
don't like
pig.
that story. I like
It's
put
well,
a-
the moral of the story is
yeah.
control who you're around, guys. It's like you said, hey, maybe they didn't have the right parent or strong parents or whatever it may be. Maybe their parents weren't around, or maybe parents were great, but the group at school
Well, here's
wasn't
what's
the best.
interesting. My memories of growing up are just wonderful. I mean, all the holidays, my mom did everything in the world for three. She was a single mom, had 3 boys, 3 gnarly boys, right? We were all breaking our bones or doing something, but we always had everything. And I think that's why I have such a nice life now. I just think like Halloween. I remember we'd cut the crepe paper or the paper and make the pumpkins and hang the stuff on the wall.
Yep.
I just sit back and I have these thoughts. My brothers don't remember that. They think of what they didn't have, and I don't understand how it's strange.
Yeah, it's
'Cause
a
I
different
talked to-
mentality. That's one good product that I think's come out of the whole COVID lockdown quarantine thing is people got to do that stuff again. People got to stay home and make pumpkins with their kids.
And I bet they
carve
shared
and
the things
bread.
that was important to them when they were kids.
Yeah, I mean, remember at the beginning of the stuff when everybody's making sourdough and all that stuff? I mean, obviously they were doing that with their kids. It's not like they were sending their kids to the neighbor's house. I mean,
Yeah.
that was back when if you even saw another human, you just ran the other way. They had you so
You
scared.
talking about the beginning of the COVID thing?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're
I remember going into Gelson's and having the everybody was in panic and all the shelves were empty, and that was no good because we didn't know what was going to happen. We didn't know if something truly, because the news will just instill fear in you because that's their job. But
Yeah.
we didn't know if they were telling the truth or not, which they weren't, obviously.
Well, and society just kind of changed, right? You didn't see people, so their face is covered. So now you don't even know people's, kind of what they're feeling. You don't know if they're angry, if they're sad, if they're mad, if they're
Oh,
smiling.
and people change. if everything's
Completely.
fine, they're your they're your neighbor. But when they think that they're in trouble and they need to get to the food before you do, they'll turn into little savages.
Yeah, I remember going to Carpinteria Albertsons and walking down the water aisle, and there was just nothing.
Yeah.
And just watching people just kind of turn the corner at this look on their face, like, how can people do this? And that was water. Meanwhile, they were giving away water right outside at an emergency trailer, but that's a different
I can
story.
remember my mom telling me when she was a little tiny girl that they had, the war rations, and my grandmother would send each kid in to get a bottle of Coke because she had to have her Coke. And anyway, and I used to think that's crazy, but then we actually saw it in our lifetime too. We
Yeah.
have 1 minute left, so anything you got to get off your chest or anything you want to talk about?
No,
Kids doing
just-
okay?
Kids are doing great. I guess just, hearing your story, it's awesome to see where you're at. You had some kind of ups and downs, and so
Finally, I'm able to talk about it and want someone to learn from it because I was embarrassed for a long time, but
Yeah.
those days are gone.
I'm glad you
Yeah.
went through it, and I guess at this point,
Yeah.
glad you went through it.
And
The
you don't
porn-
have to go through it because you can
Yeah,
just ask me. And
I
I'll
can just
tell
ask you what happened.
how it ends up. Anyway, that's it. Everybody, thank you very much for joining. Have a good holiday season. We'll talk to you soon. I'm Ben Ferguson, John Catadella.